Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. If you haven't been here before, my name's Lee. Okay, today, should President Biden be concentrating more about problems at home, or should he be president of the world? Just listen to this clip from Tulsi Gabbard on Fox News.
Tulsi Gabbard is a former presidential candidate and former congresswoman of Hawaii. So Tulsi, it takes some gall to tell Americans we're going to create a new world order after the last one, globalization, wrecked our jobs and kind of was responsible for the rise of China. Do you think he's going to get away with this?
Well, Jesse, I think it's important that we look at what's happening right in front of us, right? I mean, when I look at these issues, when I look at policies, I look at it by thinking of what is actually going to improve the lives of the American people, what will make their lives better, more secure, more prosperous, more fulfilled. And unfortunately, what we've seen is that President Biden isn't doing that. He should be focused on his job as president of the United States of America and actually solving the problems that we're facing here, securing the border, making our communities more safe, improving education, strengthening our economy by supporting small business. There are a lot of problems, unfortunately, that need to be fixed. That's where he should be focused. But instead, as we've seen, he seems to be more focused on trying to be president of the world, and along with the power elite of America, taking this missionary zeal to say, you know what, we're going to set aside the problems that the American people are facing and instead focus on saving the world by spreading democracy everywhere. It's just a bigger version of Obama's Arab Spring, where he took his kind of messianic attitude towards trying to save the Middle East by spreading democracy, but really just left destruction, suffering, and death in his wake. And the American people paid a very, very heavy price for that.
It's about humility, isn't it, Tulsi? It's about recognizing that the American president can't just shape the world however he wants. And part of being intelligent is kind of knowing your limitations. Do you think Joe Biden knows his limitations, or do you think he's so arrogant that he thinks he's just going to, create a new world order with global alliances that will be run out of Washington and Brussels like usual?
Well, central to that humility, Jesse, is first and foremost recognizing you're not God. You are not in control. And if you try to pretend that you are, what will result, even with good intentions, what will result, unfortunately, is more suffering, more hardship for the people in the world that supposedly he's trying to save, but also for the American people. Because Joe Biden's already told us, hey, freedom is not free. You, the American people, are going to pay the price. And that is exactly what we will see play out if he continues to think that he is and can be somehow the controller of all people and all things in this world.
I mean, he can barely even control himself, let alone the entire world. Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much for your analysis.
Thanks, Jesse.
Okay, so it was really interesting what Tulsi had to say. But I don't think this is just Biden. I think it's pretty much been every president of the US for many, many years. The US have been pretty dominant in the world since the end of the Second World War. They have military bases all over the world, and they've had the strongest economy. But unfortunately, they now have a challenger, and that challenger is China. And by purchasing power parity, the Chinese economy is actually bigger. And I also think in real terms, China has a bigger economy. And I will make a video in the future to explain my thinking behind that. I have a number of friends in America who I speak to regularly, and they all think that there's things in America that need improving. So neighborhoods need to be made safer. Education needs to be improved. They need a better healthcare system because it's very expensive unless you have insurance. Many people don't have insurance. It's super expensive. And I can't help thinking that if a lot of the money the US spends on military, we're looking at almost $1 trillion this year was their military budget. And I'm sure because of what's happened with the Russia-Ukraine thing, they're going to want to increase that even again next year. But part of the problem is, I think, is the military-industrial complex. It's like a vicious cycle in that to get into power, political power in the US, you need a lot of money. And who provides a lot of that money to back the political parties is the military-industrial complex. So you have this vicious cycle where then the politicians pass laws that are favourable to the military-industrial complex because they bankroll the politicians who get elected, and it just goes round in a big circle. But the US seem to need war for their economy, and this is a really negative thing. I just can't help thinking if a lot of that budget was spent on improving the education system, improving infrastructure, improving, everything in the US healthcare system, that America wouldn't then have this concern about China overtaking them, because they'd have invested that money in their own communities and their own country, and they would have probably still, they'd have probably been far in advance of China now, but they haven't. They've decided to spend that money on wars and causing trouble all around the world. But they do this saying that they're bringing democracy to the world. Well, I think if most countries look at the problems America has within its own society, I think most countries don't want that form of democracy. And if you look what they've done in countries like Syria, Iran, Afghanistan, they've always gone into those countries on the pretense of bringing democracy and that to the people, but they've always left those countries in a much worse position than they were when they first came. And you look at what America are doing now, where they're trying to split Europe not only from Russia, but they're also trying to split Russia from China. And they keep saying they've got the world with them. Well, in my eyes, Russia and the EU, with a handful of other countries, Japan, Australia, they seem to be becoming more and more isolated. You have the whole of Africa who've pretty much rejected the Biden's Build Back Better World, which was meant to be a competitor to the Belt and Road Initiative. Africa are not interested. You have the Middle East turning away from America and pivoting towards China. And you have Russia and China with a very good relationship at the moment. And again, one of the things Biden's trying to do at this G7 summit and the NATO meeting is drive a wedge between Russia and China, which personally I don't think will happen. So I just can't help thinking that, if the world were together, if countries could get on together, personally I think the world would become a much better place. The innovation would be better. We wouldn't have all this trouble being caused around the world. And I think America are just going to have to start accepting that things are changing. We are moving away from an American rules-based unipolar world into a multipolar world where countries like China and India and America and other nations and continents, the EU, Africa, should all be involved in making the rules and making the decisions. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. But as always, for now, take care.